Alright guys, so here we are in my, this is my 2002 E46, and went to the junkyard the other day and I grabbed a steering wheel for this car. As you can see up here, I've got some really bad peeling going on. Rather than rewrap it, I found this guy, the junkyard, and it's a little bit tired, but it's in much better shape than my other one, especially here at the top. So you can see it's got a few nicks and stuff, but for like $5 or $10 or something, I got the steering wheel. I did go ahead and pull the plastic covers off because mine are in pretty decent shape. The previous owner, looks like he painted them. So they're gloss black, which matches the door trim here. So I wanted to show the inside of this. Before you remove your airbag, you always want to make sure you disconnect your battery, and just remember that. Now on these steering wheels, there is the way you get the airbag out, which is this whole module here. So this whole thing comes out as one unit, and there's a couple of cables on the back side. So, and it fits right in there. The way you get this guy out is on either side of the airbag, there's a small hole there. Let me see if I can do this. And you're going to put your screwdriver, a long screwdriver, in this hole. Hopefully you have a smaller head than mine. Wasn't too worried about tearing this rubber up, but if you want to keep it pristine, you'll definitely want a smaller head. And it needs to be kind of long, and what you're going to do is you're going to push it in. And so you're going to line it up, and what you're going to end up pushing on is this little pin right here, and that's going to release it. But you have to push it from up here with the screwdriver. So you have to do both sides at the same time, or you should. So if you can see me moving that in right there, it takes a minute to kind of find it inside the spot there. But once you do that, you can pop off this green and this black connector, and they slide. So they've got a little screwdriver slot here that pops down. There we go. And then after you pop that up, you pull it straight away from the airbag. And I can't stress this enough, make sure you've disconnected your battery before you mess with any of the airbag components. So I'm going to use a 16mm nut here. Before you pull the steering wheel off, make sure these two cables up here are disconnected. Otherwise you'll pull this black piece off, and it has a communication strip inside of it. So I'm going to do that real quick and be right back. Alright, so I've pulled the nut from the back here, and I've also gone ahead and disconnected both of these up here. They're pretty standard BMW pins, so this one's got the little tab here to push down before you pull it out. And then with just a little bit of work here, I think, yeah, we're going to pull that sucker off. And then I'm going to take it to my my wagon, which is my workbench right now. Alright, like I said, I went to the junkyard the other day, so I've got this steering wheel here. I've got some other calipers and some other random parts that I grabbed. So the next thing we're going to do is I'm actually going to switch this cover and the buttons all over to the new wheel. And there are two T20s. There's one here, and there's one right back in there. And then if you flip the steering wheel over, this is one of the reasons I didn't want to do it in the car, there are two down in there. Now on the back side of these, just on the inside of the steering wheel, alright, let me see if I can find the other one here. There's a slot right here for these two little nuts to go in. So when you pull that, especially if you don't have an extra set of them, make sure you keep those, you don't drop them somewhere. So these little nuts right here actually sit down in this slot right here. Alright, so I've disconnected those screws and those nuts, and you can kind of see them. This one's a little bit different, but there's a couple of wires here you got to disconnect from the back side. And when you're pulling this out, right up here at the top, there's no screws up here, but there are a couple of tabs. You got to be careful. You know, this old BMW plastic gets real brittle. So these little tabs, they slide in and pop out. So just be careful when you're wedging that out not to snap those. Alright, and then we got this wire to disconnect, and then we're going to move it over to the new one. Alright, now it's all buttoned back up. We're going to go slap it back on. get everything bolted back up, all of our airbag connections back together, and see if we can get this baby on. Now, one thing I was actually worried about was making sure this was centered back up again. You want to make sure, because this will rotate, all right, and these two go through the steering wheel, so you want to make sure you have this lined up straight. Otherwise, when you put your steering wheel back on, you end up cockeyed when you're, you know, on the straight path. So I'm going to get this on here, and I'm going to put the phone down for just a second. All right, a couple of light taps, and we've got it back on. So I'm going to go ahead and connect this little white wire up here. There we go. And now we've got this black wire here. Maybe. There we go. Alright, now remember to connect back in the one back here before you put this on for your steering wheel controls, if those still function. Really either way, because then if you went back to a factory radio or you end up with something else with steering wheel control, you could put it on there. So now we're going to hook up the airbag real quick, and as you can see, they're labeled. There's a green and a black one. Pretty self-explanatory. I did do the recall on this one, so this is a new, pretty new pad and steering wheel airbag here. So we're gonna get that put back in. Well, I guess actually we need to put the nut back on first, right? The bolt. There we go. Now we should be able to hook this guy up. So alright, so we have our yellow and our black connector back on in the back. Now nicely, everything, the nice thing about this is everything kind of tucks together. And then you just kind of have to, I was hoping not to have to use, there it goes. Yeah, I didn't have to use the screwdrivers to put that back in. Now we have a nice freshened up steering wheel without the peel on it. And we should be good to go. I'm going to get the battery hooked back up, make sure everything still works right, and that's it. So that's good if you want to pull your bottom plate off too to paint it. If I was doing it, I would probably just pull the screws out in the car. I might not remove the whole steering wheel, but that is how you get that airbag out if you need to. Just make sure, once again, you disconnect the battery before you do anything with any of the airbags. All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks for watching. Like the video if it helps you. Thanks.